Conor sweepstakes. Who do you guys hope gets it? You want to know who I hope gets it? I hope Nate Diaz gets it. And my reasons won't be the same as yours. The Conor sweepstakes look like this. Conor becomes the number one contender, fights the winner of Oliveira versus Gaethje. We will all accept that. We will all watch it. I don't have the foggiest idea how we're going to explain it. I'm going to be one of the people tasked with explaining that. So for purely selfish reasons, okay. Conor versus Masvidal is what Conor at 170 pounds is all about. To let that one get away that came up so incredibly organically. I mean, that is one of the great stories within this sport that everybody has thrown water on as opposed to throwing fuel on. The fact that Dana White is out to dinner in Beverly Hills and a guy with a camera pops out who happens to work for TMZ is talking about Masvidal and is talking about Conor, and the guy tries to do a matchmake on the spot. Dana says no, Masvidal's way too big for him. Got under Conor's skin. Conor said, oh yeah, let me prove you wrong. And Conor's next fight, he comes out and fights at 170 to show it's not too small for him. That is an incredible story. It was organic. It was real. It was never meant to be a promotional tool. The fact that we know it was not meant to be a promotional tool, even if you're a conspiracy theorist, is that they didn't use it to promote. In fact, the opposite. They've kept these guys completely away from each other. I love the story. I'm into it. The reason I don't want Masvidal fighting Conor is because that's Poirier's fight and those two are teammates. I don't want to see a wedge drawn between Masvidal and Poirier, something I would generally enjoy seeing. But there are some conflicts that just don't feel right. From the time that Nate fought Conor the second time, showing a split. Nate wins the first one, Conor gets edged in the second one. We all knew there would be a trilogy. Trilogy fights are massive. Conor and Nate are the top tier of the biggest draws in the entire sport. Like, getting those guys together is a no-brainer. This isn't moving a used Volvo off the lot. This is getting somebody to come in and go, wow, when they see the shiny new Ferrari. That trilogy wasn't made. But we were told why. And we were told by Dana himself, who simply said that fight always works. Regardless of what history or records or rankings or what happens between these two, that fight always works. I don't have to pull that card right now. I have a massive one. I'm going to put it over here, and here's the direction I'm going to go. Okay, great. Simple answer, but we all got it. We did not consider retirement by Nate Diaz. We did not consider injury to Conor McGregor. We had two good things, and we just assumed we were always going to have it. Now here we are in a little bit of a different spot. That's the fight that I want to see. Dana said I would be shocked. That's the word he used. I would be shocked if McGregor and Diaz don't fight. Now, I don't know the timeline of Conor returning. That's been a little bit of a mystery. Conor was at a Bellator over the weekend. He did an interview. He looked great in terms of physically, looked very big. But he said he's going to be sparring by April, that the injury is behind him. If he's sparring by April, how much time does he need? We'd have to ask Conor. But I am looking at the biggest show of the year, which traditionally is in July, International Fight Weekend. I'm looking to see if it matches up and Conor can return against Diaz. That's just what I'm keeping my eye on. There's another very good fight out there with Leon versus Kamaru that could be looked at for that date. Kamaru all of a sudden goes and has a hand surgery. Now we got a big question mark right there. So I don't know that anything's being kept from us. I don't think that those answers are in place right now. But if you are looking for a mega fight, roughly 12 weeks after Conor returns to full-on training, that would be International Fight Week. And I think with Nate Diaz, boom, I think you got it. I would be with Dana. I'd be very surprised if we don't see that match. But there's still a lot of people you got to talk to. Now, don't forget why the one reason that I would really like that match is because that puts Conor at 170. And as we're looking at fights for Conor McGregor, we're coming up with possible parity, and there's no way to get it wrong. But we do have to know, what does Conor want? Does Conor still want to be champion of the world? Because 170's got a world title at it, the same as 55. Conor looks big right now. Is that a good thing or is that a bad? Jon Jones took 2 years, set it aside to go get big because he thought it would help him. For some guys, everyone's got a number. Conor did some fine work down at 145. Moves up to 55, competed pretty well at 70. Could he go on a championship? I mean, I don't know these things. I'm not here even offering an opinion. But if Conor comes back, he does have title aspirations. He stops at Diaz in front of the world on a mega weekend. Maybe we just keep him there. Dustin Poirier himself is talking about coming up into this weight class. Masvidal's already at that weight class. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity. It seems like 170 is pretty wide open for somebody to come in. Chimaev and Conor had the quickest back and forth that Chimaev's ever had. Chimaev's come at everybody over social media, and they all blinked instantly, except McGregor. McGregor did not flinch in the least. That was interesting. I don't know that Chimaev knew how to respond to that. Maybe he said, okay, I see myself in this guy. I'm not afraid, but he's not afraid either. I'm going to move on. Or maybe he thought there's some opportunity there. All that I'm attempting to prove right now is it creates a conversation. It creates some parity that we never thought that we were going to have. Now, when you have the Diaz brothers, you have the single greatest duo of marketing in MMA history. I was convinced for years this was on accident. It was unintentional brilliance. And I will come back to the night that ESPN was not going to cover the press conference, Georges St-Pierre versus Nate Diaz. Only those two athletes on the stage, Dana in the middle. Not a whole press conference, the whole card comes, or 3 months of shows, and it's this big thing. Two athletes, boss in the middle. ESPN was not going to cover it. Nick Diaz didn't show up. SportsCenter ran that visual of George and a belt, Dana and a microphone, in an empty chair for 3 straight days. That fight, when Nick didn't show up, Dana said publicly and meant it, if he pulls this on me again, I will pull him from the fight. If I can't count on him to show up at an agreed-upon press conference, how can I possibly count on him to show up on fight night? It was a fair concern. But it also turned into this wonderful marketing moment, and that fight ended up doing double the numbers of what it was projected to do. Now you have Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is very calculated, and he's a very intelligent guy, which a lot of people don't know. You'd be surprised to know all of the businesses and all the different pots that Nate has his hand in. It's very curious. But Nate came out as soon as it was said by Dana, I'd be shocked if we don't get Conor and Nate together. And Nate came out and said, I'm not interested in the fight. Now, those weren't his words, but that's what, hey, Conor, go get some wins, prove that you're worthy, then come see me. You got to understand, there's only 2 ways to go. You can come out and say, yes, that's my fight, like everybody else has ever done. And you can look as thirsty as they are, and maybe you get it, maybe you don't. Or you can say you don't want the fight to keep the conversation going. You don't have a third option. It's not A through Z, 1 through 10 on these. You got 2 options. You want to say yes to it, you want to say no to it, as a way of coming together. Nate kept his pride. He kept his ego. Doesn't look thirsty. He doesn't look hungry. Doesn't look like he's begging. What the hell would Nate have to beg for? These two are one apiece. You want to settle the score with me? I bring the same thing to the table as you do. So maybe it's best that we just be partners. I like it. I get it. It was different. It was smart. It was Nate Diaz.